nominees and their families, and we thank both of you for your willingness to serve. First, I'd like to welcome Susie Feliz to be Assistant Secretary for Legislative and Intergovernment Affairs at the Department of Commerce. She's joined by her husband, Jose. He's very well behaved back there. He's not doing anything, that'll distract us. Ms. Feliz comes from a proud military family with a long history of veterans who faithfully served our nation. Her career in public service spans more than 20 years and includes positions in both the Senate and the House of Representatives. She's dedicated much of her life to working with all levels of local, state, and federal governments, as well as constituents and businesses to improve underrepresented and minority communities. She currently serves as the Vice President for Policy and Legislative Affairs at the National Urban League. Ms. Feliz brings a wealth of expertise and knowledge in shaping public policy and has a strong track record of working with people on both sides of the aisle. And I look forward to working with you to ensure that this committee's priorities are communicated to the department and that together we can achieve our shared goals. I also wanted to mention Chairwoman Cantwell's strong support of both of the nominees. She just lost her mom. Senator Wicker and I were just talking about this on Monday, and so she's still in town working really hard on the USICA semiconductor bill, but has a lot going on, and she is very excited about both nominees. I saw her last night and wanted to convey that. Second, Mr. Don Cravens has been nominated to be Undersecretary of Commerce for Minority Business Development at the Department of Commerce as well. We welcome you in this incredible new position, and we're excited about the work you can do. We talked about this yesterday, and you are joined by your wife, Yvette, and two of your children, Dominique and Chloe. So we thank you for being here as well. This position was established when we passed the Minority Business Development Act as part of the bipartisan infrastructure law, which was signed into law in November. A number of people on this committee worked really hard on that bill, and we thank them for their leadership. If confirmed, Mr. Cravens would be the first Senate confirmed person to occupy this important position leading the Minority Business Development Agency. The MBDA is the only federal agency solely dedicated to the growth and global competitiveness of our nation's 9.2 million minority-owned businesses. The agency's nationwide network of local MBDA centers assists minority-owned businesses in gaining access to capital, finding the right markets, and landing contracts and technical assistance that help companies grow and compete. I'm proud to say that one of the 39 MBDA centers is located in my state, in Minneapolis. I can't think of anyone better suited to lead the agency than Mr. Cravens. He has long been committed to public service, business development, and equity. He previously served as an elected official in his home state of Louisiana, first in the state's House of Representatives, then in the Louisiana State Senate, and in January 2009, he left the Louisiana legislature to serve as staff director and chief counsel for the Senate Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship under then chair and our friend Mary Landrieu, former senator from Louisiana. So that's a pretty good recommendation for all of us in the Senate. In January 2013, he became Mary's chief of staff. Senator Landrieu, I know, strongly supports your nomination and is a huge fan of your work. Currently, Mr. Cravens serves as the Executive Vice President and Chief Operations Officer at the National Urban League, which operates 13 entrepreneurship centers across America focused on the development of minority-owned businesses. I'm so excited, Don, to see you at the helm of this incredible agency as it embarks on a new chapter, embraces new responsibilities. And I know Senator Wicker has also been incredibly helpful on this front when it comes to the important work with entrepreneurs, minority entrepreneurs across the country. So it's also fitting that we are chairing this hearing together. Again, I'd like to thank both of you for your willingness to serve. I now turn to Ranking Member Wicker, also from the South, Mr. Cravens, for his opening statement.
Right across the river. Thank you, Senator Klobuchar, and thanks to Senator Cantwell for calling this hearing to consider the nominations of Mr. Donald Cravens to be Undersecretary of Commerce for Minority Business Development and Ms. Susie Feliz to be Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Legislative and Intergovernmental Affairs. These are important positions within the department, and they warrant the committee's focus this morning. This is the first time a nominee has come before the Senate to fill the role of the recently created position of Undersecretary of Commerce for Minority Business Development. Last year, I actually sponsored legislation that codified the Minority Business Development Agency and elevated its top leader to the position of Undersecretary. So this is a matter of importance to me. This agency does critical work to support minority businesses, business owners across the nation, including in my home state of Mississippi. I attended a banquet of the United Negro College Fund some years back in Tupelo, Mississippi. My fellow Mississippian, the late Charles Evers, spoke at that banquet, which was held at the Ramada Inn in Tupelo. He said to the group of young people there, I don't want you just to get a job at the Ramada Inn. I want you to own the Ramada Inn. And that belief is now going to be carried on by this MBDA. And I think it's good to have a Senate-confirmed official leading this agency to make sure there is sufficient congressional oversight. I'm encouraged by Mr. Craven's qualifications, including his service as staff director of the Senate Small Business and Entrepreneurship Committee, and I look forward to hearing from him today about his strategic plans for the MBDA. I appreciate that he is listed as one of his priorities to expand the geographic reach of the agency. I have in my hand, Madam Chair, a letter dated July 14, 2022, recommending highly Mr. Donald Cravens for confirmation. It's signed by Rick C. Wade, Senior Vice President, Strategic Alliances and Outreach, U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and I ask unanimous consent that it be admitted at this point.
It will be.
And I know Mr. Cravens will see this area as an area of untapped potential, particularly our rural areas. Now, moving along, the Department of Commerce has a vast range of policy areas and programs in its jurisdiction, and the Assistant Secretary for Legislative and Intergovernmental Affairs provides a key link between the Department and Congress regarding this entire portfolio. I look forward to hearing from Ms. Feliz about the experience she would bring to this Assistant Secretary position and her goals for this vital role, if confirmed. So thank you very much, Senator Klobuchar, and look forward to the hearing.
Thank you very much, Senator Wicker. I think we'll start with you, Ms. Feliz, and thank you, both of you. Look forward to hearing from you, and then we'll have questions from the committee. Go ahead. We have some members on remote as well. Thank you.
Chair Cantwell, Ranking Member Wicker, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today as a nominee for Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Legislative and Intergovernmental Affairs. I am honored to be President Biden's nominee, and I'm grateful to Secretary Raimondo and Deputy Secretary Graves for their trust in me to fulfill the duties of this position. I want to thank my husband, retired Navy Captain Jose Feliz, who is in the audience today, for his unconditional love and support, for being a wonderful father to our two young sons, Giovanni and Lucas, and for the privilege of being a stepmother to his two older children, Genesis and Daniel. I am here because of the love and sacrifice of my parents, who left their homes in Ecuador in search of a better life for themselves and their families here in the United States. Together, they raised 3 children, including my sister, Ana Luisa, who works in the private sector, and my brother, Josh, who is a captain in the U.S. Army. My parents chose careers in public service to give back to a country that gave them so much and to provide for their families. My father retired after 27 years of service in the Army as a combat engineer. He fought in both wars in Iraq and Afghanistan in defense of our nation and was a recipient of the Purple Heart for his service in Iraq. My mother retired as a special education teacher's assistant at Albritton Middle School in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. They both instilled in me the core values of duty, integrity, and selfless service, which I will bring to the Department of Commerce if confirmed. As a military child, I lived and attended schools in 6 different states, which exposed me to the cultural differences we have across our country. I learned to love and appreciate the diversity of our nation, but also saw firsthand the economic hardships faced by so many, particularly in historically underserved communities. This experience fueled my passion for advancing inclusive economic growth and opportunity throughout my career on Capitol Hill. If confirmed, I'm excited to continue my purpose in service to the nation at the Department of Commerce. I believe my experience on Capitol Hill has prepared me to carry out the role of Assistant Secretary for Legislative and Intergovernmental Affairs. During the last 2 decades, I have served as an aide to former Senator Clinton, a legislative director to Representatives Joe Baca, Al Green, and Karen Bass, and as the Vice President of Policy and Legislative Affairs for the National Urban League. I am grateful to my former bosses for the opportunities they gave me and the legislative training I received, which will serve the needs of Congress at the Department of Commerce, as well as the needs of state, local, and tribal governments. If confirmed, I will bring an in-depth understanding of the legislative process, a track record of working in a bipartisan fashion with Congress and the administration to ensure policies are implemented faithfully, and experience leading legislative teams. Finally, I have worked on several legislative priorities that are central to the economic mission at the Department of Commerce, including minority business development, digital equity, economic development, and the decennial census. The department has several mandates that I look forward to working with you to implement if I'm confirmed. Not the least of these mandates is employing historic new public investments to ensure all Americans have access to affordable broadband, workers have access to job training and wraparound services that create pathways to quality jobs, and women and minority-owned small businesses have the tools they need to grow and thrive. In addition, the department's strategic goal of driving U.S. innovation and global competitiveness is central to revitalizing domestic production and increasing the resiliency and diversity of supply chains. And its authority to facilitate trade abroad and issue trade restrictions and economic sanctions on countries that threaten U.S. national security and foreign policy interests has never been more vital. As a former congressional staffer, I recognize the constitutional responsibility of Congress to create laws and execute oversight authority. My experience has helped me understand how important it is for Congress and the executive branch to work closely together to ensure the faithful implementation of these laws. If confirmed, I commit to work with my team and all leaders within the Department of Commerce to respond in a timely and appropriate manner to requests from Congress, governors, mayors, and tribal governments, and to ensure the department is working towards meeting statutory deadlines. It is humbling to have been nominated to a role so critical to implementing policies and programs which are aiding in our nation's economic recovery, as well as to protecting our economic standing in the world. If confirmed, I look forward to serving as your direct line of communication to the U.S. Department of Commerce. Thank you again for inviting me to testify today. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cravens.
Thank you, Senator. Good morning. Acting Chair Klobuchar, Ranking Member Wicker, and my condolences to Senator Cantwell and her family. Members of the committee, it is an honor to appear before you today as the first ever nominee for Undersecretary of Commerce for Minority Business Development. I'm grateful to President Biden for the nomination, and I thank him and Secretary Raimondo for their confidence in me. I'm joined this morning by my wife of 24 years, almost 25, Yvette Puckett Cravens. She has been a tremendous partner and an invaluable supporter in both my personal and my professional life. We've raised 3 wonderful children. Our oldest, Dominique Claire, just completed her first year at the Washington and Lee School of Law. My middle child, my son, Donald Cravens III, Trey, will be a 3rd-year cadet at the United States Military Academy at West Point. I'm sure he's sleeping right now. He had duty last night, Senators. And last but certainly not least is Chloe Denise Cravens. She is a 5th grader and loves playing her clarinet. In many ways, this is a full circle life moment for me. In 2009, I began working just 2 floors above this room as the staff director of the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Committee. But my desire to work on small business issues began well before 2009. Early in my life, I developed a passion for the success of minority-owned businesses. My parents, Donald Sr. and Patricia, have owned and operated a small business in Louisiana for over 30 years. And during that time, members, I witnessed the unique struggles of small, minority-owned businesses, but I also realized the potential of the American entrepreneurial ecosystem. Despite obstacles, my parents, like millions of American minority business owners, they persevered and afforded my siblings and me the benefits of our great country. After graduating from Louisiana State University and earning my law degree from the Southern University Law Center, I successfully ran for the Louisiana State Legislature in 2004. As a state representative and later a state senator, I represented hundreds of businesses. Many were minority-owned, and many were located in rural communities. In the period following Hurricanes Katrina and Rita, I assisted my constituents with navigating the challenges related to recovery and rebuilding. I became a voice for small business. I became a champion for business owners. And as a result, former U.S. Senator Mary Land Drew chose me to become staff director of the United States Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship upon her becoming chair. While there, I played an integral role in the drafting and the passage of the Small Business Jobs Act of 2010, negotiating with stakeholders on both sides of the aisle, including the administration. I organized multiple bipartisan hearings and roundtables focused on and featuring minority businesses from both urban and rural areas. I should note that my commitment to public service also motivated me to join the Army National Guard during my time with the committee. In my current position as the Executive Vice President of the National Urban League, I have continued my work and my passion for entrepreneurship. The National Urban League operates 13 entrepreneurship centers across America, focused on the development of minority-owned businesses, and I play a key role in the success of those centers. With the passage of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the Minority Business Development Agency is expected to increase its programming to support the nation's 9.2 million minority-owned businesses. If I am confirmed, the MBDA will operate as a data-driven, policy-focused agency aimed at increasing minority business enterprises' access to capital, contracts, government services, and business opportunities. MBDA will implement a significant research agenda to identify economic conditions, market trends, and opportunities that foster the growth and global competitiveness of the next generation of minority business enterprises. If confirmed, I will focus on 3 priorities. First, I will assess the agency to determine its strengths and its challenges and begin responsibly building the agency to meet the full potential of the Act. Second, I will work to ensure the MBDA is providing the support and the resources minority business enterprises need to succeed. Lastly, I look forward to expanding the geographic reach of the MBDA to rural communities. In addition to my family and my professional accomplishments, I'm also proud of my military career. I currently serve as a major in the Army National Guard. If confirmed, I promise to serve the MBDA with the same integrity I've exhibited as an officer in our nation's military. Senators, I believe my unique life experiences, both in the private and the public sector, make me the right American to become the first Undersecretary for Minority Business in the Department of Commerce, and I respectfully ask for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of you. Excellent job. And really impressive resumes and work and passion for what you're doing. I think I'll start out with you, Ms. Feliz. We enjoy having Secretary Raimondo before this committee. She's always prepared, so it's probably going to make your job easier. But one of your jobs, of course, is to update the committee on legislation and our staff impacting the broad mandate of the department, but in particular, now with the passage of the bipartisan infrastructure bill, one of my big priorities in that bill was the broadband piece. Representative Clyburn and I jointly led the broadband bill that was the model for the bill that was incorporated. And of course, Chairman Cantwell and Ranking Member Wicker also led a lot of the efforts with regard to broadband. And the law, as you know, entrusts the NTIA to distribute $42 billion in National Telecommunications and Information Administration in grants for states to build out broadband to reach unserved and underserved areas. Could you talk about how you're going to coordinate the work of the Commerce Department, bureaus, state, local, tribal governments to work with us in the committee and raise awareness of the investments that are available across the board?
Thank you for your question, Senator, and thank you for your leadership in passing this historic investment in high-speed internet for all Americans. I can understand why this issue is so important to you, and I know that this administration shares your commitment to ensuring all families and communities have access to high-speed internet, and also to ensuring coordination among the various broadband programs being implemented across several agencies. If confirmed, I commit to working with you and your staff, consulting with the career staff in NTIA and respective bureaus, and to keeping the lines of communication open, as well as ensuring there's transparency with respect to how the department is implementing these programs.
Very good. Thank you very much. Mr. Cravens, Senator Wicker mentioned rural, and I've long been a champion for rural exports, actually, because a lot of our smaller companies in my state, and I'm sure in his state, can't have experts on every country in the world or speak the language, and then yet they have products that could do very well abroad. And Senator Hoeven and I actually introduced the Promoting Rural Exports Act to establish a rural export center at the U.S. Commercial Service, very important agency as us, to provide support to rural businesses to help them export. I think that MBDA currently operates 4 export centers across the country to help minority-owned businesses. Could you talk a little bit about helping minority-owned rural exporters access global markets, which is so much of our global future for our economy?
Well, Senator, thank you so much for the question, and thanks for your leadership in this area. As I said in my opening testimony, the rural piece, Senator Klobuchar and Senator Wicker, is very important to me as someone who grew up in rural South Louisiana. If I'm confirmed, members, this is a piece that I want to roll up my sleeves and get started working on as soon as possible. A couple of things I'll say about that, Senator, is one, I know my reading of the act says that in order for the MBDA to do this work, this expanded work, $110 million as the floor for what that will entail. And so I'll ask the members that if I'm confirmed, you'll see me again asking you for those resources, Senator Klobuchar, so that we can build on what the act mandates the new agency will look like. As far as exporting, as you mentioned, there are 4 centers that currently exist at the MBDA for exporting. When I get there, I'd like to assess what those centers do. I'd like to address whether or not there are any gaps in the work that those centers do. Even though those centers are located, obviously, in 4 cities, I don't think they're limited geographically for the help that they can provide nationwide. And so I'd like to see what is the technology like so that if minority businesses in Minneapolis want to access and need help, can they reach out to San Antonio or to Miami or Houston or Arizona to do that? And if not, Senator, how can we work with your team to change that? And so again, if I'm confirmed, I will work very hard to make sure that our rural piece talks about exporting, manufacturing, and really just bringing the resources to minority businesses in rural America, in some cases for the first time.
Okay, we're seeing a manufacturing skills gap estimated to leave over 2 million jobs unfilled by 2030. Could cost the U.S. economy big time. Minority-owned manufacturing firms represent over 10% of all U.S. manufacturing firms and report similar challenges. Quickly, in your opinion, what can Congress do to help minority-owned manufacturers get the resources they need to grow?
I think we can, thank you, Senator. I think what we can do is build upon the work I think that MBDA has been doing with the creation of these 4 and the existence of these 4 centers that are currently there. I think we can use the power of the new act, which allows the undersecretary to take testimony, to do research, to work across agency, Commerce Department, as well as all administrative agencies to see how we can leverage the resources of the federal government.
Thank you. And I'm going to just follow up in writing on 2 topics local to me. Neighborhood Development Center based in St. Paul has really helped thousands of entrepreneurs in our state. We're very proud of it. And Would like to get your views in writing on working with these community-based initiatives. And then secondly, Mayo Clinic also seeking out employees has combined with the Rochester, Minnesota branch of the NAACP to work with our HBCUs across the country to recruit the next generation of doctors, nurses, and others in the medical profession. So I'll ask you about that in writing. I'm going to, after Senator Wicker finishes, turning over the gavel to Senator Schatz, who's here, and I'm going to thank both of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Klobuchar. I appreciate that very much. Ms. Feliz, as legislative intergovernmental affairs Assistant Secretary, you're going to realize more and more how diverse the Department of Commerce is. And so you're going to have to be conversant about a number of issues. I want to talk with you today about NOAA, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, and particularly their rules on a rather precise issue of the catch limit for red snapper fishermen. And it may be that you haven't really delved into this very much, but this is something that we're going to have to deal with the Department of Commerce and with NOAA. There are annual catch limits in the Gulf of Mexico on red snapper. As a matter of fact, there are limits established by NOAA and by the government that are deeply flawed to the detriment of our sports fishermen in Mississippi. If allowed to be implemented, it would reduce Mississippi's red snapper quota by 60%. Dr. Spinrad, the NOAA administrator, has said, and I quote, "There's no way the proposed calibration would pass peer review." So we have the NOAA director actually saying publicly that this is flawed data. Now, on the other hand, Ms. Feliz, the state of Mississippi has implemented a very detailed assessment called Tails and Scales. It actually involves catching a number of red snappers, weighing them on the scales, and providing that data. Now, we had thought that NOAA would incorporate the data the good data that we have provided in terms of the annual catch limits in place of this flawed data, which Dr. Spinrad said would never pass peer review. That sadly has not been done, and it seems as though the agency, unless we make some changes, is going to push forward with this flawed data. And we just cannot tolerate that down in the state of Mississippi. So will you commit to getting up to speed on this issue, to making sure the Secretary understands the importance of this issue, as I know she does, and that you all work with our friends at NOAA to make sure that this data is as accurate as possible?
Thank you for your thoughtful question, Senator. I understand how important this issue is for you and your constituents. Fishing in the Gulf Coast is a prosperous industry that has a huge impact on the American people that you represent and in your home state of Mississippi. Yes, Senator, I do commit to, if confirmed, getting up to speed on this issue. I know this is an issue you care very deeply about, and if confirmed, I will make a commitment to work with you and your staff to ensure that we are listening to your views and ensure that there are open lines of communication as well as transparency with respect to how the department and bureau is implementing this rule.
Thank you, ma'am. And I might add that one reason I'm going to be leaving this hearing early this morning is to go and meet in my office with Dr. Spinrad. So I think it's a multi-thousand job issue and millions of dollars for our economy. So thank you very much. Now, Mr. Cravens, I think it's probably becoming clear to both of you that you're going to be confirmed with flying colors. And so thank you, Mr. Cravens, for saying and agreeing to follow through on rural minority business development too. And I appreciate what you said about being a military veteran. And I note Captain Felice, retired Navy Captain Felice, is here. In my view, the United States military is the most successful civil rights program in the history of the world. And I witnessed it as an Air Force cadet, answerable to minority superiors when I was in college, as an Air Force active duty member, as an Air Force reservist. So I appreciate the fact that you see that as a way to perhaps draw some of the retirees that have had this great leadership experience in this great civil rights experiment into small businesses. We've got 9.2 million minority businesses now. Is it realistic to establish a numerical goal, do you think? And I realize this is coming out of the blue, but do you think there is some merit in saying by the end of X date we'll have X number of million?
Senator, thank you for the question, and thanks for your leadership on this issue. Thank you for your leadership and the support of the MBDA throughout the years. It's a great question, Senator, and I think about it often. As a military man, I do understand that goals are important. Without them, we can't measure successes and we can't measure failures. What I would say, and again, I can't speak for the administration until I'm confirmed, I do believe, though, some goals are important. What makes goals real or not is that they're based upon input. And so if we were to create goals, Senator Wick, I'd want to work with you and the members of this committee. I'd want to work with stakeholders. I'd want to work with the men and women who have been doing this work for over 50 years and set realistic, rational goals. And then we could measure ourselves, Senator, so that when you call me before this committee again for an oversight hearing or to answer some questions, I will have something I can measure it by. Without it, we're just really kind of just shooting in the dark, shooting blind. I think our minority businesses, you've got 82,000 in Mississippi. I think they would want us to have some reasonable, realistic goals for us to live by so that you and I could go down and talk about these goals in Jackson. I could go to Alcorn State, and I'll go, as long as it's not a Saturday and it's football season, I'll go to all your schools.
That might be the very time to go. Well, we're intruding on the time of other members. Let me just say this, Senator Klobuchar, and to my fellow members of the committee. If we could have a breakthrough in this area, I cannot express how important it would be to the economy of this country. If we could have a quantum leap in minority business entrepreneurship, that would be a game changer.
Agreed.
So we're looking to you.
Okay, so well said. Well, Senator Schatz, we turn this over to you, knowing now that the ranking member has said these two nominees are going to go through with flying colors. That is a lot on your shoulders, but I leave it in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Klobuchar and Ranking Member Wicker. If Senator Blunt is ready to ask questions, I'd be happy to defer to him.
Well, thank you, Senator. I'm going to go to the ceremony in the rotunda in a moment for the last Medal of Honor winner from World War II, and that's why I'm leaving, not because I have any lack of interest in these two jobs. I would say Don Cravens understands a lot about the Senate, a lot about the Congress, and fortunately, because of a vet, a lot about Missouri. So I like that and understand your family commitment to the government and to these issues. You know, this is a new job, and I may have been missing some of your opening statements. Give me a little bit of a summary of what you hope to have happen here. This is a job we created in this Congress in a bipartisan way to reach out in a way that we haven't before. How do you see yourself building on that job, and how do you see yourself advocating for the businesses that we were hoping to include in a more dramatic way?
Senator, thank you so much for the question, and thanks for your commitment to minority businesses. As you know, you've got almost 70,000 in your great state. Senator, the reason why I was interested in this job was because, as you know, the MBDA was created in 1969 by President Nixon. And every president, Republican or Democrat since then, has said we need a minority business development agency because minority businesses are facing unique challenges in our country. Because of your leadership, this Congress's leadership, and President Biden's leadership, for the first time, you all said as well, and not only should the agency exist, but we need to grow it, we need to make it intentional, and we need an undersecretary, real leadership, an added level of leadership to make the agency work and be intentional. And so for me, Senator, this is a dream come true, a prayer answer, to be able to do this work and to be able to do it at such a level in this administration and with this Congress. My goals, Senator, are very quickly to, one, assess the agency, to see all of the great work it's been doing, but to address gaps and challenges that maybe the current MBDA may be facing. The second goal of mine, Senator, is to grow it according to the mandates of the Act. I joke, I have never had a job with a better job description than this one. You all passed an 80-page act, not even a year ago, saying expressly, this is what we want our MBDA to look like. This is who we want it to serve, and this is how we want you to serve it. And so the second goal, Senator, is to make sure that the team and I understand the act. And then lastly, Senator, we're going to execute. And if we're fully funded, if we're funded according to what you all said we need, I want to expand to rural areas. I want to bring MBDA to a new generation. Our entrepreneurs of today don't necessarily look like the entrepreneurs of yesterday. Supporting those entrepreneurs of yesterday, but how do we build the next generation? The act calls for the Perrin Mitchell grant program to be created. Former Congressman Perrin Mitchell, who you know was a big promoter of minority businesses. I look at that program as one, Senator Blunt, where we can go to HBCUs and other minority-serving institutions, and we can invest in the future entrepreneurs of this country. So I hope you can hear the passion in my voice, Senator. I'm excited about this opportunity. I'm asking for your support to be confirmed, and I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get started.
Well, you're going to have my support to be confirmed. And Ms. Flores, I'd say you two have, the background in the House and the Senate. I think that have people in these jobs that understand the importance of communicating with the legislative branch of government and helping reach out to be sure we're giving you the tools you need, and at the same time, you understand the intention of the job you're asked to do. I mean, the court recently put some new responsibilities, or reminded the Congress, rather, of its old responsibilities, which was your job's to pass the laws, and your job is not to leave a lot of things that people who are appointed to jobs have to try to figure out what you meant, and help us help you do that as well. So, Senator Schatz, thanks for letting me move forward here, and best of luck to both of you, and good to see you both here today.
Senator Tester.
Chairman Schatz, thank you very much. Mr. Cravens, thank you for being here and your willingness to serve. I was part of the 5 Republicans and 5 Democrats who worked together to get the bipartisan infrastructure package done. Why that's important from your perspective is that it made permanent the Minority Business Development Agency. And as a result, the agency's capacity and reach have been expanded in what I think is a much needed way. I want to talk about natives. Can you talk about how this expansion of capacity will help tribal communities, and what types of commitments you would prioritize in that regard?
Thank you so much, Senator Tester, and thank you as well for your leadership and for your willingness to support the MBDA. Senator, the Native community, the indigenous community is very important to me. It's important to me because, one, I grew up in a community that was extremely diverse, and 2, because of the work that I've done just throughout my lifetime. I represented members of the community, and at the National Urban League, I'm very attuned to inequities that exist in underserved communities. First of all, Senator, what I would do, if confirmed, is I would look at the current programming that already focuses on the Native community. And as you know, MBDA has several programs that focus on the American Indian, Alaskan Native, and the Native Hawaiian communities. And so I'd work on those, Senator, to make sure that those are working. see if there are any gaps and to fill those gaps. The other place, Senator Tester, that I think we can work on to address the needs of the tribal, the native, the indigenous communities, as you know, Senator, many of those communities are located in rural communities, in remote rural communities. And so again, if we fund the MBDA at the levels that you all said we needed to be funded, the 110 million, and we can really build out the rural entrepreneurship centers, I believe many of those centers could focus on the indigenous, the native populations.
Boy, I got a lot of questions. I'll just go with the first one that's top of my head, and I thank you for your answer to that question. Now, how do you make sure that that money's been actually getting to the ground and doing what you intended to do?
Senator, I think it's leadership. The type of style that I have is you trust, you hire smart people, you hire good men and women to do the job, but you verify. So I trust but verify. And so I believe that when you supported changing the role of MBDA, expanding the role of MBDA, creating an undersecretary role for the MBDA, was that you wanted someone that you could call to the mat if necessary to ask those questions. And so, Senator, I'm going to make sure that if I'm confirmed that I lead that type of agency, I have those types of individuals who are working for me, and that I can come and talk to you to make sure it's getting done and being done correctly.
Appreciate that, Mr. Cravens. So I want to talk about the reservations that don't have the necessary physical infrastructure for business development. How do you envision helping them?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. I envision helping them through technology. The fact that we are having a hearing today and you are appearing remotely, I know my days at the Senate, even in 2009, that would have been unheard of. And the fact that we are all now able to Zoom and meet virtually, I believe we can amplify the existing resources. And as we build out, we can amplify resources and we can meet people where they are without having to necessarily build a physical structure in every rural community or have a physical presence in every single community. I think through technology, Senator, smart technology, we can service communities all across this great nation.
So let me ask you this. So a lot of the tribes may not know you even exist. How do you reach out to those folks? What do you use? You're invited to come to Montana, and we'll do a tour of all 7 reservations. But the fact is that's kind of impractical as it applies to all the reservations in the country. How do you reach out to them? How do you let them know what you have to offer?
Thank you for the question, Senator, and that is something that I look forward to. I think one of the most pressing issues I look forward to. The MBDA has to amplify and change its appearance. It has to amplify its knowledge, and I think that's why you all made it codified it so that people do know that it exists. The honor of being the first, Senator Tester, is a blessing, but also a burden of making sure that that actually happens, that we make sure we get to people, meet them where they are, and that they understand that there is help for them. And so, Senator, I'm going to work very hard with the existing centers. I'm going to work very hard with the members of Congress. I'm going to work very hard with, if we're fully funded, to create rural business centers. And also, Senator, I'll mention, the act also said, if fully funded, we could create regional centers, which currently the MBDA does not have regional centers. I believe regional centers could also assist with the issue you raise about awareness. As you know, most of our federal governments have regional offices, and so people are able to access those offices nearer to home. MBDA currently does not have that.
Hopefully you're confirmed, and we will stay in touch. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Tester. Senator Blumenthal, it is good to see you.
Thank you, Senator Schatz, Mr. Chairman. Good to see everyone there, and thanks for letting me participate remotely in this way. Mr. Craven, I share your passion for support for minority-owned businesses, and thank you to Ms. Felice as well to your commitment to this cause. In Connecticut, what we've seen during the pandemic, as in many, many other parts of the country, I'm sure my colleagues have said it, is the impact has fallen disproportionately on minority-owned businesses. The hardship and heartbreak has particularly impacted them. And I wonder whether there is any light you can shed on not only the need for capital, but also for technical assistance at this critical time, because as you've observed just now, technology permits us to participate remotely in this hearing. There are lots of ways that technology can aid or, in other ways, impede development of minority business. So technical assistance becomes very, very important. Wonder if you could comment.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal, and thank you so much for the question. I'm speaking from my lens at the National Urban League, where I've had an opportunity to see firsthand how the pandemic has disproportionately affected businesses of color. What we know is that minority-owned businesses were more likely to see decreased revenue during the pandemic and to experience a greater drop in employment than white-owned businesses. Black-owned businesses closed at twice the rate that white-owned businesses closed, or their non-minority counterparts. And to your point, those businesses, and that is why I think the MBDA was codified, need help and they need assistance. And to your question about technical assistance, I would say that I think the MBDA, through its current business centers, have been providing that technical assistance. If I'm confirmed, first day on the job, we're going to review those agencies, those business centers, and we're going to see if there are any gaps, any challenges, and I'm going to have an opportunity to see firsthand how that work is being done. If we are fully funded, we're going to expand on that work according to the Infrastructure Act, the bill that you all passed. We're going to build rural centers. We're going to build regional centers, and that's going to help with the technical assistance. And so, Senator, I'm again, if we have the opportunity if I have the opportunity to be confirmed and we can fully fund the agency, I think we can address those issues. I want to make sure, Senator, that when the next recession or storm or whatever hiccup or challenge that a minority business owner faces, that he or she are in a better position to weather the storm. And what we found during COVID is that many of our minority business owners were just not in great conditions to weather the storm.
Did you find during your experience at the Urban League that the restaurant revitalization program had a beneficial effect for many of the small business restaurants? I've found throughout Connecticut that restaurants survived and many of them now thriving because of the restaurant revitalization program, which unfortunately now has run out of money and I'm hoping will be replenished. Maybe you can give us your personal experience.
Senator, thank you for the question. Yes, I did find that based upon my personal experience that programs like the help that we provided, the federal government provided to small businesses did in many instances help those businesses make it. As I said, those businesses started out with less to begin with. Many minority business owners don't have a nest egg. Many minority business owners, when the supply chains were hit, it really impacted minority businesses because when they raise their rates, it can lead to shuttering the doors. And so the programs that the federal government put in place to help those minority business owners, at least from my vantage point, I did see that it prevented many of those, it helped and assisted many of those business owners with staying alive, staying afloat.
Thanks, Mr. Cravens. Ms. Felice, I have a quick question for you. Are there changes that you anticipate making in your office, assuming you are confirmed?
Thank you for the question, Senator. If confirmed, I look forward to learning about the processes in place to at the Office of Legislative and Intergovernmental Affairs to ensure that there are timely and accurate responses to congressional inquiries and oversight requests, and assessing those processes that exist and then later making a determination if there are any that need improvement. But I am very excited to work with the extremely talented and dedicated public servants that are already at the department.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman, to you and the staff for accommodating me in this way remotely. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal. Next is Senator Hickenlooper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Cravens, thank you for your service. Thank you both, Ms. Felice as well, for your service and for being here today. Mr. Cravens, I applaud the Minority Business Development Agency's Enterprising Women of Color initiative in support of the fastest growing population of entrepreneurs. If confirmed, how do you look at coordinating with the Small Business Administration's Women's Business Centers to help expand and support that initiative?
And thank you so much for the question, Senator, and thank you for your leadership in this space as well, continued leadership. So as a former staff director of the Senate Small Business Committee, I am very familiar with the Small Business Administration and the wonderful work that they do there and that Administrator Guzman has been doing since taking the role. One of the programs that I've seen grow and really mature and blossom is the Women's Business Center program. And so one of the things that excites me the most about this new role, if confirmed, is leveraging the skills and the products of the SBA into the MBDA. And the agencies are very different, but they complement each other very, very well. And so one of the mandates you put in this wonderful act that you all created, this wonderful job description, as I called it, is you mandate that I work across the government to make sure that the minority business issues are being intentionally addressed. And so although the Women's Business Center programs work for all women, the way I see myself working is to make sure that women of color, that their interests are being sought after and seen after as well in that program. And so I want to do that with the SBA. I want to do that with the Department of Transportation, the Department of Defense. I want to be the voice for the minority businesses of this country.
Terrific. Good answer.
Thanks, Senator.
Ms. Felice, and I'm eager to make sure everyone's aware that you have your degree from the University of Denver, one of Colorado's proud assets. The Office of Space Commerce recently announced a new director, Richard Dalbello. The office is undertaking a truly critical process of developing an open architecture data repository, which basically is a fancy language for a database, to catalog orbital debris and to enhance our awareness of what they call space situational awareness, but the geometry of where that debris is, where are the satellites, how do we make sure things don't run into each other. This data repository is going to help maintain the sustainable and safe operations of civil space missions. And Ms. Felice, I guess what I'd love to hear you talk about a little bit is are you willing to, or are you committed to making sure that we keep this committee informed of further congressional action necessary to support the growth and mission of the Office of Space Commerce? It's relatively new, and I think in these early years, we're going to need to have a close connection for a conduit for information.
Thank you for your question, Senator. I understand how important the Office of Space Commerce is to you and other members of this committee. And if confirmed, I certainly look forward to learning more about the programs under the office's jurisdiction and to keeping this committee and working with your office and members of your staff to keep you and this committee informed of any action needed to support this critical mission.
Great, thank you. I appreciate it. It's going to be important. And then, Mr. Cravens, how does the MBDA interface with the SBA to ensure that minority business owners have the support and the assistance to overcome the obstacles that we know they face in terms of securing credit that all underserved communities have to deal with?
Thank you, Senator. I think the best way we can interface with the SBA is to communicate well with the SBA. As you know, the SBA has lending programs, the MBDA does not. And so one role that the Undersecretary and the team, if confirmed, could work on is to making sure that the SBA programs are hitting their marks, that that their lending programs are hitting their marks, and that minority business entrepreneurs are having an opportunity to participate in those programs. As you know, the SBA has contracting goals as well, and so I see a big role for an Undersecretary of Minority Business to make sure those goals, that minority businesses are participating in those goals and that we're meeting those goals as a nation. The other thing I would suggest, Senator, is in the act that you've said that the Undersecretary can convene hearings on capital access, can do research on capital access and those issues. And so I'm hoping the agency will be funded so that we can do that work and we can build the agency to the agency I think you wanted it to be when you passed the Minority Business Development Act last year.
Absolutely. Thank you, and thank you both. I think Administrator Guzman is going to be very well served by both of your tenure. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you. I'm now going to recognize myself for some questions. Mr. Cravens, Wisconsin is currently served by minority business development agencies located in Detroit and Chicago. We are working on changing that and hope to have good news from the MDBA soon in response to the announcement of anticipated new locations in 6 states. As Undersecretary, would you make opening and supporting new offices in states that do not have them, like Wisconsin, a priority?
Absolutely, Senator. Thank you for your question, and thank you for your support. Senator, I hope I'm confirmed and in the job so I can come with you and we open that center in the great state of Wisconsin. But yes, ma'am, the act is very clear. Congress has said they want MBDA to touch people and meet people where they are, and in all states. And so, as I've said before, I think through technology, we can do that. But I am excited to see that the men and women who are there now are working to bring a center, hopefully to your home state. It's needed. And I look forward to working with you and your team to make sure it's successful.
Thank you. In an effort to promote economic resiliency among minority businesses, one of the requirements of the Minority Business Development Act is a study on alternative financing solutions. One financing solution that has been proven to increase the resiliency of small businesses is the use of employee ownership. Employee-owned companies are twice as likely to survive an economic downturn, and during the pandemic, they were 3 times more likely to retain staff. As Undersecretary, will you ensure that employee ownership is considered among the alternative financing solutions studied by the MBDA?
Thank you, Senator, for the question. And, last night I had an opportunity to read the act again, this job description, as I called it, and I read it with my family. And I saw the section of the act that you're talking about. It says agency study on alternative finance solutions. And it says we must conduct a study on opportunities for providing alternative financing solutions to MBEs and submit to Congress and publish on the website of the agency. And so, Senator, if confirmed, looking very forward to conducting the study following the mandates of the act. And yes, ma'am, absolutely, we are going to look at alternative ways to get equity and financing to minority business enterprises. As you know, it's the #1 issue facing minority business enterprises.
Absolutely.
Yes.
One of the priorities of the MBDA is to provide federal assistance to minority businesses in the area of workforce development. As a strong supporter of federal apprenticeship programs, I've been concerned that the number of Black apprentices in Milwaukee has declined significantly during the pandemic. A further concern is the discrimination that Black apprentices report encountering upon entering the job market after completion of their apprenticeship. I raised this issue with Labor Secretary Marty Walsh, and I'm confident that he is prioritizing the issue at his agency. But given the mission of the MBDA, it seems like there might be an opportunity for a productive partnership there. Would you commit to working with Secretary Walsh to connect apprentices to minority businesses served by the MBDA?
Thank you for the question, Senator. And as an urban leaguer, as you know, apprenticeships is a big part of what we do. And you're right, I'm concerned with the numbers that I'm seeing across our great country. Yes, ma'am, I absolutely commit to working with Secretary Walsh, and I'll go further, Senator, with other members of the administration as well in their departments, DOD, the Department of Transportation, to work on apprenticeships across the government.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I have no further questions. I don't believe there are any other members that have further questions. So this concludes our hearing this morning. Thank you, Ms. Feliz and Mr. Cravens, for appearing before the committee today and for your continued commitment to public service. Senators will have until Monday, July 19th at the close of business to submit questions for the record to the committee. And the witnesses will have until the close of business on July 26th to respond to those questions. Thank you again, and that concludes today's hearing. And I'm supposed to gavel out, but I'm going to use a bottle instead. Thank you again.